From cases involving the murder of infants to those involving gruesome homicides that could make even the devil cringe, the tale of Jamie Osuna is among the most chilling stories to come across. There are times when criminals don't resemble the crimes they commit, which can help them avoid detection. However, with Jamie Osuna, his sinister, Joker-like grin and satanic symbol tattooed on his face made him appear like a sinister character from a horror film. Osuna's disturbing behaviour began at an early age. When he was just 8 years old, he took pleasure in killing animals. On one occasion, when his mother left the house to visit some local shops, young Osuna decided to put the family cat in the freezer. During this period, Osuna's stepfather physically abused him, a mistreatment that only ceased when he left home as a teenager. His brother Kurt also suffered abuse, but managed to escape by moving in with his grandparents, a decision that Jamie always resented. It was reported that his stepfather even made Jamie eat from the floor like a dog while the other children dined at the table. It is likely that the mistreatment Jamie received in his childhood contributed to his disturbing behaviours down the line. Drawn to the camaraderie and rebellion of local gangs, a teenage Jamie Osuna began to dabble in drug use as a means to escape the harsh realities of his home life and his personal psychological demons. Notably, his drug of choice was meth. At the tender age of 15, he encountered his first brush with the law when he was detained for an assault involving a deadly weapon. From then on, run-ins with law enforcement became routine, with his rap sheet illustrating a history of drug possession, assault, and battery crimes. In 2008, a chance meeting with Joel Castellano at a house party led to the blooming of a relationship that ended in marriage just 2 years later. The ceremony was held at Osuna's grandmother's home in February 2010. Despite facing legal charges and serving a 9-month stint behind bars for causing harm to his wife, Osuna was subsequently released on parole. By August 2010, they had welcomed their first and only child into the world. Despite his frequent prison stints, the grisly torture and murder of 23-year-old IET Pina in 2011 was the incident that cemented his reputation for infamy. IET Pina, a devoted Sunday school teacher and mother of 6, had a fateful encounter with Osuna at the Morocco Hotel, a day that ended tragically. The circumstances surrounding Yvette's tragic demise remain unclear, although there's no doubt that she met a gruesome end. But how did Yvette find herself at that motel? The truth reveals a heartbreaking journey of personal hardships. Yvette had moved to the motel as a result of her life's trials. Her downward spiral began in 2004 when she started to use meth, which resulted in her children being taken away from her. Even before drug addiction became a part of her life, Yvette was a victim of sexual assault in her formative years. Despite her earnest efforts to put her painful past behind her and nurse her family, her psychological wounds ran deep and couldn't be brushed aside easily. By 2011, Yvette was fully addicted to meth, often hanging out with fellow users at the motel to use drugs together. Her life took a sharp turn in February of this year when she was arrested for the possession of unlawful substances. While serving her sentence in jail, she gave birth to her 6th child, only to be released soon after the charges against her were dismissed. On the fateful day of November 7th, Yvette agreed to meet with Osuna and some others in room 19 for a meth session. The very next day, Osuna returned, his thoughts no longer preoccupied with meth, but rather with more evil motives: murder. Given the motel's location in a high-crime neighbourhood and its notorious reputation, it's highly probable that anyone who might have witnessed or heard about the crime didn't bother reporting it to the police. The tragic conclusion to Yvette's story whispers a chilling tale every source of light fails to illuminate, with shadows looming over her untimely end. It is believed that because Yvette resembled his wife, an older woman with similar facial features and green eyes, Osuna decided to carry out his fantasy of torturing and killing her. Osuna surprised his victim on the day of the murder by changing from a nice man to a vicious monster in a matter of seconds. He first hit the victim with a blunt object before slicing and stabbing her. He tormented her for hours after stuffing a piece of material into her mouth at some point during the assault. Yvette's body finally surrendered to the man with the tattooed face, and her agony ended. When victims are at a difficult place in their lives, the unfortunate thing about these cases is that others remember or know them for the things they were a part of. Yvette was characterized as a stunning, caring woman who would stop at nothing to help others, addicted or not. She actually worked several jobs as a teenager to save money for a toy for her younger sister. She didn't have another chance to get past her current problems and create the life she wanted. The unimaginable abuse that Jamie Osuna committed was unjustified, but what makes this case even more horrific is that this revered, naive, and kind woman was forced into a terrible circumstance that made her final hours on Earth agonizing. Prosecutors claimed that the woman's injuries were truly horrifying, with sharp items still impaled into her back and her lifeless body discovered gagged. Yvette had suffered abuse, but her death came from a mix of stab wounds, hypoxia, and blunt force trauma. After his arrest, Osuna spoke candidly in an interview saying, "I did sadistically, premeditatedly, liberty, tortured and murdered Yvette Pina." He went on to say, "The torture and all that is more of trying to get a rush. It's an addiction. It's a drug. I would rather do that than do drugs. I would rather do that than have sex. I don't care if you're a lawyer, a teacher, a gang member. I don't care if you're my brother or sister. I don't care if you're whoever. It's about my decisions at that time. It's self-gratification to me." Osuna's mindset demonstrates his alarming level of psychosis. This complete disregard for human life is among the most shocking episodes ever featured on true crimes, which is significant for regular viewers of the channel. The torture did not end with Yvette. During the trial, Osuna continued to smile at the family as the details of his violent crimes were recounted. Remarkably, he remained so composed that he discussed the Oakland Raiders with others while his incarceration for life was being finalized. The tip that led to Osuna's arrest originated from his wife, Joelle Castellano Osuna. She informed the police a few days before Pina's body was discovered. According to Joelle, Jamie contacted her, warning her of an incident at the Morocco Hotel. When she inquired further, Osuna nonchalantly recounted the story of a woman being stabbed at the motel. Distressed by this, Joelle decided to notify the authorities. Incredibly, despite the warning, the police did not conduct an investigation into the hotel or the murder. A few days following the police call, a staff member at El Morocco Motel entered room 19 and discovered Pina's damaged and bloody remains. Following the finding, the police contacted Joelle again and conducted an interview with her, ultimately completing the puzzle. Jamie Osuna was imprisoned in Kern County Jail after being arrested in 2011 for the horrifying torture and murder of Yvette Pina. The courts refused to grant Jamie Osuna bail. He actually had to wait for his trial for the following 6 years due to the lengthy delay. In order to avoid the death penalty, he entered a guilty plea in March 2017 to first-degree murder and torturing Yvette Pina. Osuna received a life sentence without the prospect of release from jail in May 2017 from the court. Osuna acknowledged killing 2 more people when he was barely 13 years old in an interview, but none of these were ever verified. Osuna gave only hints when pressed for specifics, stating that they were abandoned in the orchards and that the 2 of them were 32 and 27 years old. Speaking to reporters, Osuna denied that any of his past killings had anything to do with gang activity. So why was this arrogant, sick, and smug killer so reticent to discuss the specifics of his prior crimes? The reason for this is that he had an older acquaintance who was a great teacher and who remained silent so as not to reveal his true identity. Naturally, all of this could just be the musings of a crazy person looking to boast about how many bodies he has. We'll never be able to tell for sure without knowing any specifics or victims who might be connected to him. Having said that, there are so many unsolved crimes in the US alone that Jamie Osuna might be involved in 2 of them. Osuna, the name we often relate to remorseless murderers, doesn't quite stop the terror at Yvette's demise. Even within the confining walls of a cell, this sadistic beast found ways to quench his perverse desires. During the wee hours of March 9, 2019, a routine security scan of Osuna and his cellmate, 44-year-old Luis Romero's cell, was performed by Corcoran officials. On examining Romero's bed, the guard stumbled upon a beheaded Romero, with Osuna nonchalantly adorning a necklace made of Romero's body parts that he had skillfully extracted. To state the gruesome details, the man had plucked out an eye, severed a finger, extracted ribs, and a piece of Romero's lung from his victim. The horrifying part is that the coroner deduced Romero to be alive during some parts of these horrific deeds. Following this occurrence, the jail and its guards came under heavy fire because it was their duty to check on the detainees hourly. This was obviously untrue. since it would have taken hours to accomplish all of the mutilations. The crazed Jamie Osuna was like a child in a candy store because of the lack of protection and his ability to fashion and hide a homemade knife. A thorough inquiry revealed that 2 of the guards had lied about visiting the 2 detainees, and 2 more had later admitted to witnessing the first 2 officers performing their duties improperly. Romero was on the verge of being eligible for release after serving 27 years in jail at the time of his murder. Having been a member of a gang as a youth, he fatally shot a lady in Compton, leading to his conviction for second-degree murder. Osuna was later diagnosed with non-specific schizophrenia, spectrum disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and borderline personality disorder. He was then moved to the mental inpatient program at Salinas Valley State Prison. A judge declared Osuna mentally unfit to stand trial for the heinous cell murders due to his mental health issues. Astoundingly, it wasn't an isolated incident for Osuna to attack another inmate. Previously, he had infiltrated a fellow prisoner's cell and violently assaulted him, leaving the man in need of 67 stitches to mend his facial wounds. When offered to document his injuries through photos, the victim declined, fearing that Osuna might obtain the photos to augment his grotesque collection of trophies. These events reflect the perception of Osuna by those incarcerated with him. A cunning individual, capable of the unthinkable. Rumors of his ability to sneak into cells undetected, craft makeshift weapons, and gruesomely murder and disfigure his cellmate, adorned with the body parts as if casually trying on accessories at a retail store, lend credibility to the sinister reputation that surrounded him. Fortunately, Osuna's days of menacing stares and his eerie, clownish appearance are over, as he is doomed to live out his existence in solitary confinement. Following the murder of Romero and the subsequent revelation of law enforcement oversights, it's highly improbable that Osuna will be in a position to enact his morbid desires any further. Upon inquiring about his atrocious behavior, Jamie Osuna casually answered, "I have no sympathy. I'm sadistic. I'll do it over and over again. I love what I've experienced. To this day, if I can go back in time to change anything, would I? No, I would go back and do it again and over again, and if I'm released, I will probably end up here again with the same case." Did you all feel a spine-chilling sensation as well? These phrases perfectly encapsulate the wickedness of this beast.